Anthony Segrich. I'm running for District 4 City Commissioner for the city of Lake Worth Beach. I look to one of my supporters, Angelo, who runs Paradiso Restaurante in Lake Worth. He's been there 29 years. And, you know, at an event we had, he rather passionately said, you know, Lake Worthless no more. And he just repeated it with such passion and conviction, and everyone in the room was clapping. And that's really the goal for me, is for those people that have felt that nothing's going to change. It's to tackle that, actually show change, and bring them back into the fold of, you know, hope. You know, I always tell people, I'm not going to tell you exactly where to start, but I suggest we start with some of the little things, so you have some wins.
Yes.
So knock off 100 of those little things, and all of a sudden people start seeing change, and all of a sudden they want to get involved. Hope's contagious.
Yes.
It's just as contagious, but it's more powerful than that fear and everything else. But it just takes a spark. And, you know, for Lake Worth Beach, you know, we need that spark. We need a commission that's going to come in there and tackle some of the little things while dealing with the big.
Absolutely.
But let's get some early wins, and let's get some W's on the board so that people see hope. And, you know, I truly believe a lot of it begins with the little stuff.
It takes somebody like you who has that energy, who, you know, want to do something a little different, and who cares about, you know, what you're doing in the city and all that other good stuff too. So that is truly exciting.
Do you have any idea or goals to really kind of turn the city around and kind of reshape it to bring it a more positive?
If you look at our city, there is a lot of light and a lot of hope in our city. But we also have our challenges. We do have a vibrant community, and they come together, and we have festivals, and we do great things, and we help each other. But I think, you know, you look specifically at some of the stuff like crime and so on. You know, our crime statistics, you know, on the books are looking great.
Yes.
But about 80 to 85% of the crime in our city goes underreported because, you know, we have a very large migrant population, a very large Haitian population, and there's distrust between those populations and law enforcement.
You hit it on the head.
And even so now, I mean, it's 100 times worse. You know, I've spoken with some of the individuals at ICE, and, you know, they're telling me that school attendance is down 70%.
Wow.
You know, and it's fear. It purely is fear. And, you know, we can't have that. The crime and that feeling of distrust, that didn't start, you know, a couple months ago.
No,
that's been going on for years.
Yeah.
It's just been thrown into the limelight because there's now such a stark reality that we have to deal with, right? And as a city, I think we've been avoiding dealing with some of these realities. So, you know, some of these drug houses and human trafficking homes that they're taking down right now, they've had them on watch for 2, 3, and 4 years.
Wow.
And there was basically, you know, people's hands were tied from dealing with that because of some of the optics. And so I think as a community we need to be unafraid to help those people in the marginalized communities by enforcing the law against the real criminals. And I think we need to have a lot more in terms of community policing, members of our police force from the community, you know, living in the community and walking around the community, you know, getting to know people, showing up at barbecues, you know, being present downtown. I think a lot of that will help. So we really need to work with PBSO and realign our priorities. You know, you can't sit there and say inaction is going to solve this. It's you know, we're not a sanctuary, we're a trap. And I look at those state laws, they're like a baseline. You know, they're broad strokes, they're a broadsword. And Lake Worth's problems are unique, and we need a scalpel, you know. And so as a city commission, we need to be taking action and being proactive versus reactive to that. And I think that'll help correct that. I think as you start to see more activities, more families coming into the parks, more people being around, that darkness goes away.
Yes.
And I think that's part of it too.
I know our program is working on a few things, but just wanted to hear from you, so if that's something that we can implement in what we're doing or make some changes to what we're doing.
It's the old proverb, right? You know, you give a man a fish, he eats for a day. You teach him how to fish, he eats for life. And, you know, simply feeding people without offering mental health services,
Yeah.
without, you know, ministering to them, you know, street ministry, sitting down and talking with them, and really trying to get to the root of their problem, getting to know them as an individual, it's not really effective, right? It's gonna bring, like you said, more and more people for it, and just kind of, they come in and they come out, you know, and never really get that help that they need. But I think Palm Beach County and PBSO have made great strides in bringing people on who, you know, are specifically trained to deal with that. And, you know, organizations like yours, and you know, I think we need a plan. You know, if you're going to be offering food, also offer services, right? You know, keep people in the building, speak to them, you know, and help them, because it's more than just feeding them that one day. It's about helping them get back on track. And it's also about protecting them, you know, vulnerable. They are our most vulnerable class of people, and a lot of times they're getting taken advantage of as well by some of those, you know, guys that, you know, we see that are aggressive on the street.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's in public in broad daylight. Imagine what, you know, how they are at night with, you know, and what they're doing to their fellow homeless. So it's a tough problem. You know, like you said, all cities deal with it. But I really think that we, you know, like you said, there has to be a point, you know, and a line drawn. But, you know, we have to have those services there, and we got to do it in combination.
Care to get involved with is discussions like that, you know, that leads nowhere. I mean, when you talk about small wins, I like to take on those small wins and just keep doing that and just make it look like we're winning, you know?
Yeah.
And then avoid those discussion or those forums where you're going to get a lot of good, smart people in the room. You're going to get a lot of good advice. And then none of that is actually put to use to have an impact.
Doing that, having those discussions, workshopping it, without a specific goal and a time frame is useless. All it ends up doing is frustrating the individuals who are involved in that process, because, you know, they put all their heart and soul into it, their brain power into it, and then, you know, produce something good, and then it goes nowhere, right? And that frustrates people, and then they drop out of the process, you know. And that happens a lot in Lake Worth. We have workshops, we workshop an idea, and then it gets kicked down the road. But we can make things happen, you know, on an accelerated timeline if we just have an end goal, right? If we're going to have that discussion, what is the change that's going to happen out of it, right? And when? And that's what we have to work towards. So unless we set goals with that, it's really an exercise in frustration. You know, as far as community policing, you know, we see PBSO a lot, and the officers, I give them an A+, man.
Yeah.
You know, they do a great job. They really do. They're putting their life on the line for us.
I agree with you totally.
I apologize to them every time I have to call for one of those little things. But I do. I call and I call and I call, and they come out and they eventually take care of it.
What are some of your ideas? You say, you know, on day one, you know, this is something that I'd like to do as far as code enforcement is concerned.
So there's lots, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'll break it down into a couple things, and it's going to take building a coalition.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the rest of the commission has to, you know, or the majority of the commission has to go along with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we have to have the political will and the fortitude to see it through. One of the biggest complaints that you'll see out there, and it's not code enforcement, it's licensing, but it's
Mm-hmm.
closely related. It's all
Right.
under the same umbrella. You know, new businesses coming to our town have to wait months to get their business license, right? If you ever tried to fix your fence in town, you gotta wait like 3, 4, 5 months to get a fence permit. And, you know, I look at that, and it's just kind of ridiculous. Because the actual time that a staffer has to spend on a fence permit, it's about 5 minutes, maybe 10. Could be 20.
Yeah.
1 hour at the very most, which I kind of highly doubt, because you have to produce the survey and draw on it and everything. But if we fix the process where, you know, maybe there's a person dedicated to those kind of class 1 permits, you know, the quick and easy ones, get them out there, we can radically change the people's perception of what's going on. If the fence permits are coming out, you know, oh, it takes a week to get done, all of a sudden people go from being pissed off to being happy with it.
Right.
And 90% of residents' interactions with permitting are on these little things. They're not, you know, not everyone's rebuilding their home. Not everyone's, you know, gutting it and doing it. Most people are putting in pavers and fences. And it just shouldn't be that hard, right? Code should protect people, right? It should protect you from the slumlord. It should protect you from a dangerous building. It should protect you from the contractor trying to take advantage of you. It shouldn't enforce the will of a few people at the city upon the residents. And I think that's where we're at with Lake Worth Beach. We've got a code that's super specific and overreaching in areas where it needs to just stay out of our backyards.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't move to an HOA. We're in a funky city.
Yeah.
You know, the little quirks of everyone's houses is what make this city great.
Yeah.
And we're trying to like control all of that, every aspect of it. Right now the city commission is trying to hire an outside consultant to do it. And I look at our city and I say, you know, for every one of our problems we keep hiring outside
Outsiders,
consultants.
yeah.
And I say, you know, and I firmly believe this, the people elect a commission to be that consultant, to be their voice. They look for somebody who they think is knowledgeable and who can take a stance and steer the ship. And, you know, knocking on doors and meeting people, I can tell you, there's some pretty easy wins in our code, you know. Stay out of my backyard.
Yeah.
Make it easy for me to get a fence.
Yeah.
What is some businesses you think are needed in Lakewood Beach to kind of really, you know, bring more attention to it, I would say?
It's a great question. So right now, we actually have a, you know, in commercial real estate, you would call that like an anchor tenant, right? An anchor business, something to draw people in. Right now, we have a project called the W Moda. It is a glass museum.
Okay.
And I don't know if the listeners know or not, but Lake Worth Beach is already known as a hotbed for blown glass artwork. And the area of Palm Beach County is actually home to some of the most world-renowned collections of glass artistry. So we're already kind of in a mecca of the arts for glass. And the W Moda is going to have a world-renowned artist place his primary collection there. So, you know, that's an example of something that's going to bring something unique to our town, and it fits in, right? You know, it's artsy, it's funky, it's different.
And that's what Lakewood is known for.
And it's also coming with artist lofts. So live workspaces for artisans to be right near the downtown, where they live there, but they also have their art studio. So I've traveled to many different cities for work, and you know, when you're there by yourself, you try to go find something to do. And in every city I've ever went to, I've always been drawn to the arts district. You know, go to the little boutique shops and go to the studios and meet the artisans or the clothing designer or the sculptor and so on, and enjoyed it. And so, you know, a project like that, we're all hopeful that that's what it's going to do. It's going to bring an anchor. Right now, we're I think 30% vacant in downtown.
Wow.
So we got a lot of room to grow.
Yeah.
You know, and I'd love to see it. You know, those small, quaint shops. You know, for the downtown.
Yeah.
I've been helping neighbors and friends deal with the city. I've been crusading for things that I have nothing to do with just because it was wrong. You know. our city is foreclosing on many homes because of code violations.
Wow.
And it's not right, because many of them start off like the woman you told me about, who's
Right.
just too poor to put in the new windows.
Yeah.
Some of them start off like my buddy who had a putt-putt in his backyard. And you look at the docket as it goes, and they file the foreclosure. Then they hit them with fines if they don't advertise that they're in foreclosure, because that's a new violation.
Wow.
So you're in trouble for getting in trouble and not telling everyone you're in trouble, right? You know, it borders on the ridiculous. And you know,
Wow.
doing this and working with people, and my wife brings businesses into our town, and I try to help there and get them through and get them open and dealing with that. You know, she sits there and she looks at me, and it's 2:00 in the morning. She's like, "You coming to bed?" I'm like, "No, I got to get this research done, and you know, there's a meeting tomorrow, and I got to be prepared." And she looks at me. She's like, "You're already doing the job, so you might as well have a seat at the table.
Mm-hmm.
You know, get your butt up and run." I think the city's at a point now where it needs somebody with my skill sets, my experience, my temperament, and my outlook on things, and my ability to dissect these problems to move us forward. A lot of people might have the right mindset and be on the right side of the issues, but just not possess the skills they need to dive deep into the issues and help bring things forward. And right now, the way we operate, staff really drives a lot.
Yeah.
And I want to see us have a strong commission and have the commission drive it.
Yeah.
And that takes visionaries. It takes data nerds like myself and business people.
Mm-hmm.
It takes people who are compassionate and empathetic. And I just see a beautiful mix of what the commission's starting to develop, and I see all those things there.
Right.
And I'm very hopeful for what we can do. And it's been an exciting process. For me, this is about my forever home being Lake Worth Beach for my wife and my family, and about steering the ship right, and getting the job done. So I'm hoping that and really striving for, we're going to be able to make that change in my term, in my tenure as a commissioner, and get the city on the right path. And when you do that, more great people rise to the occasion. When I told people I was running, they're like, "Well, thank you for doing that, but you're crazy."
Absolutely.
You're crazy, right? And it's going to be an uphill battle. But once we straighten some of this stuff out, hopefully we'll have more people wanting to get involved. And we're starting to see that. We're starting to see younger people getting involved in civics.
Key, yeah.
And I think back to Angelo from Paradiso.
Yeah.
He's got a painting inside his restaurant. It's the city on the hill. It's the ideal city.
Yeah.
And he talked about that, and passionately, almost in tears, right? He's been here 29 years fighting the good fight, saying, we are no longer Lake Worthless. We are Lake Worth.
Yeah.
We are going to be that city on the hill in Palm Beach County. We're going to be that jewel of the Palm Beaches. And I'm excited to be part of that.
Yeah.